We love our sponsors like Foothill Transit. Visit them online at foothilltransit.org. Sponsor us and we'll promote you on the show too. Email info@crowncitynews.com to learn more. Now for the morning buzz. The recent attacks in Alexandria caused some major concerns about the violence and so forth. And I think we've had a lot of very violent kind of tweeting and social media and interaction in this country right now.
Yeah, and you wonder if it's connected to the whole discussion about travel bans and weapons laws and all of that. It's a mean-spirited environment, isn't it? Very much so. Now, we all saw the Kathy Griffin video, and she, of course, apologized for that. But the real issue is there have been 12,000 tweets calling for the president's assassination. So joining us to talk a little bit about that is LA progressive Dick Price. So, Dick, have we gone too far? What is your feeling?
Well, I do know that when President Obama took office, there was lots of talk about nationalist militias in the mountains coming down to attempt to kill him, and there was quite a bit of concern. And now there's a lot of talk. I think, again, like we were talking earlier about social media. Well, you know, before somebody in a barroom could say, you know, we ought to shoot that guy. Well, now it can get out to millions of people at the click of a few finger movements.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Kathy Griffin, I do think that that's absolutely too far, regardless of who the president is, because of the office of president. We've kind of lost sight as we have an individual serving as president, but he is serving in a role that represents us all, regardless of how we feel. I thought what she did was heinous. Again, we all make mistakes. On the other issue is the assassination really just come with the deal, exacerbated by Dick's point that more people see the tweets and the sentiment?
Right.
So I didn't particularly care for the Kathy Griffin thing myself, but I respect her First Amendment right to express herself. She didn't say to assassinate him. But you have to look at who's occupying the White House right now, and who's the one that decided to make enemies of Mexicans. They're rapists, they're murderers, they're coming to get you. Or Muslims, you know, we need to keep them out of the country. Well, I have friends in the Muslim community and the Latino community, and they're desperately afraid. Today, Trump did away with the DAPA exit. You know, a few, not very many people, the parents of undocumented children who are in college, who might indeed actually make America great, are now going to are now subject to deportation. Trump bears some responsibility, and then his talk about the media, where they're terrible people, they're liars, don't believe them, or declaring war on the judiciary, or picking a fight with the intelligence community, saying that they are somehow disloyal. These are people that go out in the woods and practice killing people with their thumbs. And Trump is all about the bile and all about the pointing the fingers, and I think he's ratcheting up a lot of anger. I'm not saying it's all his fault. I think there's a great dispirit in the country right now.
There really is.
The opioid crisis is, you know, a lot of people feel disconnected from what's going on in the government. And if I had one thing that I would say that's the cause of that is corporate America has taken over our politics. You know, it's the same thing when we were talking about gun control. Well, why doesn't any gun control legislation pass? It's because the NRA started after the Civil War to improve marksmanship and gun safety. But now, even though the majority of NRA members would like tighter gun control, the leadership is totally under control of the gun manufacturer and corporate world, and they have a $300 million budget to deny the passage of any kind of gun control.
Wouldn't you say there are a lot of lobbyists that are really kind of controlling situations within
and
Washington?
how would we fix that? Public financing of elections, so that representatives don't have to go to lobbyists at all. Lobbyists can go down and go watch baseball games.
So what are some of your other ideas in relation to uniting the country and squashing some of this violence?
Well, I do think taking money out of politics would make a lot of difference, and I think breaking up corporations so that ownership of the businesses in your community were owned by people in that business. Right now, the gun manufacturers, they don't really care that there's a lot of gun violence because it's not going to reach them in their penthouse on Park Avenue. They got a doorman to protect them.
It might though, Dick. It might reach them. But when you start talking about breaking up corporations, when you start talking about actually taking over what people can do and who can give, well, there's lots of talk about campaign financing, and the conservatives are really saying open the floodgates, no limits on how much, nor do they want people to have to disclose who's giving. And on the other hand, you have this opportunity where I don't know that gun makers don't care, but they certainly want to sell more product.
Exactly.
It's
well,
a
their
difficult
business.
conundrum.
Well,
If they're using their $300 million to prevent a bill from passing that would prevent mentally ill people from owning guns, they don't care very darn much.
Let's talk about how we're managing our mentally ill here in this country, too. We have record homelessness. In fact, it was very interesting because there was a report in Pasadena that homelessness has reduced by half, and I thought, how did that happen? Because I think they're still out there. They're just shifting to other cities. They're just moving them out of Pasadena.
No, I don't think so. Pasadena is doing well. They're coupling psychiatric counseling teams with the police, so when they have a report of a homeless person, they don't just send a cop that shoos them off to the next city. They send a social worker there that is equipped with places they can go. We drive through. I take the train through Los Angeles all the time. Homelessness is everywhere.
Yeah,
it's big, complex issues, and they're intertwined together. I think that makes it even more complex. That there's not a single issue.
And then where do you stomp on someone's freedom?
But we just passed a small tax to put hundreds of millions of dollars into solving the homelessness problem in LA. And I have hopes over the 10-year, because to me that's been a blight on our soul for 30 years. 40 years ago, you didn't see homelessness on the street, and then suddenly it did.
But we
Ronald
also
Reagan.
had places like Camarillo. Well, that honestly, it's kind of interesting when you think about that, because Rosalind Carter really did not want to have these institutions, and it started in her court, and then I think it was a monetary thing where Ronald Reagan did eventually approve those, and then we had the closure of all of these healthcare facilities where people were living.
And that was one half of the equation. The other half was you would have local clinics where people could take care of people once they were no longer in horrendous mental hospitals. We did the first. We saved a bunch of money by emptying out the mental hospitals, and we dumped the people on the street. We didn't do the local.
Absolutely. Dick Price, how do people get a hold of you?
Sharon and I are at laprogressive.com every day.
All right, thanks. Join us again.
Okay.
Coming up, segment star Celeste Sierra with CCN Real Estate.
That's right. She'll talk about how the new changes to the reporting strikes against your credit report impacts you. Next.